Vaheguru. Satnam Sri Vaheguru.
I thought it would be useful to select references to the inner sound in the world's religions as a cross-cultural reference. The following is by no means exhaustive, but does provide a tantalizing glimpse into the universality of Shabd, even if some of the examples only tap into its preliminary stages. Hatha Yoga Pradipika. When the Brahma Granthi in the heart is pierced through by pranayama, then a sort of happiness is experienced in the vacuum of the heart, and the anahat sounds, like various tinkling sounds of ornaments, are heard in the body. Sitting with Mukta Asana and with the Sambhavi Madil, the yogi should hear the sound inside his right ear with collected mind. In the third stage, the sound of a drum is known to arise in Tai Sunya between the eyebrows, and then the Vayu goes to the Mahasunya, which is the home of all the siddhis. When the Rudra Granthi is pierced and the air enters the seat of the Lord, the space between the eyebrows, then the perfect sound, like that of a flute, is produced. The sound which a Muni hears by closing his ears with his fingers should be heard attentively till the mind becomes steady in it. In the beginning, the sounds heard are of great variety and very loud, but as the practice increases, they become more and more subtle. Nada is the bolt of the stable door for the horse, the minds of the yogis. A yogi should determine to practice constantly in the hearing of the nada sounds. The knowable interpenetrates the anahata sound which is heard, and the mind interpenetrates the knowable. The mind becomes absorbed there, which is the seat of the all-pervading, almighty Lord. Nada Bindu Upanishad. The yogin being in the Sadasana posture and practicing the Vaishnavi mudra should always hear the internal sound through the right ear. In the beginning of his practice, he hears many loud sounds. They gradually increase in pitch and are heard more and more subtly. At first, the sounds are like those proceeding from the ocean, clouds, kettle drum and cataracts. In the middle stage, those proceeding from madala, a musical instrument, bell and horn. At the last stage, those proceeding from tinkling bells, flute, vinya, a musical instrument, and bees. Thus he hears many such sounds, more and more subtle. When he comes to that stage when the sound of the great kettle drum is being heard, he should try to distinguish only sounds more and more subtle. Just as the bee drinking the honey alone does not care for the odor, so the cheetah, which is always absorbed in sound, does not long for sensual objects, as it is bound by the sweet smell of nada, and has abandoned its flitting nature. The serpent, cheetah, through listening to the nada, is entirely absorbed in it, and becoming unconscious of everything, concentrates itself on the sound. The sound serves the purpose of a sharp goad to control the maddened elephant, cheetah, which roves in the pleasure garden of the sensual objects. It serves the purpose of a snare for binding the deer, cheetah. It also serves the purpose of a shore to the ocean waves of cheetah. When the spiritual sight becomes fixed without any object to be seen, when the vayu, prana, becomes still without any effort, and when the cheetah becomes firm without any support, he becomes of the form of the internal sound of Brahma Pranava. Tibetan Book of the Dead. O nobly born, when thy body and mind were separating, thou must have experienced a glimpse of the pure truth, subtle, sparkling, bright, dazzling, glorious, and radiantly awesome. In appearance like a mirage moving across a landscape in springtime in one continuous stream of vibrations. Be not daunted thereby, nor terrified, nor awed. That is the radiance of thine own true nature. Recognize it. From the midst of that radiance, the natural sound of reality, reverberating like 1,000 thunders, simultaneously sounding, will come. That is the natural sound of thine own real self. Be not daunted thereby, nor terrified, nor awed. O nobly born, 5-colored radiances, vibrating and dazzling like colored threads, flashing, radiant and transparent, glorious and awe-inspiring, will strike against thy heart, so bright that the eye cannot bear to look upon them. Be not afraid of that brilliant radiance of 5 colors, nor terrified, but know that wisdom to be thine own. Within those radiances, the natural sound of the truth will reverberate like 1,000 thunders. The sound will come with a rolling reverberation. Fear not, flee not, be not terrified. Know them, i.e. these sounds, to be of thine own inner light. Richard Rolle and the Fire of Love. I was sitting, forsooth, in a certain chapel, and while I was finding great delight in the sweetness of prayer or meditation, suddenly I felt within me an unwonted and pleasant heat. And though at first I wavered, doubting for a long time whence it might be, I became convinced that it was not from the creature, but from the Creator, because I found it grow more warm and pleasant. But when half a year, 3 months, and some weeks had passed by, during which that warmth of surpassing sweetness continued with me, there was borne in on my perception a heavenly spiritual sound, which pertains to the song of everlasting praise and the sweetness of the invisible melody. Invisible, I call it, because it can be neither known nor heard, except by him to whom it is vouchsafed. And he must first be purified and separated from the world. For while I was sitting in the same chapel and chanting psalms at night before supper, as I could, I heard as it were the tinkling music of stringed instruments, or rather of singers, over my head. And while my whole heart and all my desires were engrossed in prayer and heavenly things, suddenly, I know not how, I felt within a symphony of song, and I overheard a most delightful, heavenly harmony, which remained in my mind. For straightway, while I meditated, my thought was turned into melody of song. And for meditation I, as it were, sang songs, and that music voiced itself even in my prayers and psalmody. Hazrat Inayat Khan and the Mysticism of Sound. Abstract sound is called Sat-i by the Sufis. All space is filled with it. The vibrations of this sound are too fine to be either audible or visible to the material ears or eyes, since it is even difficult for the eye to see the form and color of the ethereal vibrations on the external plane. It was the Sat-i the sound of the abstract plane, which Mohammed heard in the cave of Gar-i-Hira when he became lost in his divine ideal. The Quran refers to this sound in the words, "Be, and all became." Moses heard this sound on Mount Sinai when in communion with God, and the same word was audible to Christ when absorbed in his heavenly Father in the wilderness. Shiva heard the same Anahad Nada during his Samadhi in the cave of the Himalayas. The flute of Krishna is symbolic of the same sound. This sound is the source of all revelation to the masters, to whom it is revealed from within. It is because of this that they know and teach one and the same truth. The Sufi knows of the past, present, and future, and about all things in life by being able to know the direction of sound. Every aspect of one's being in which sound manifests has a peculiar effect upon life, for the activity of vibrations has a special effect in every direction. The knower of the mystery of sound knows the mystery of the whole universe. Whoever has followed the strains of this sound has forgotten all earthly distinctions and differences and has reached that goal of truth in which all the blessed ones of God unite. Space is within the body as well as around it. In other words, the body is in the space, and the space is in the body. This being the case, the sound of the abstract is always going on within, around, and about man. Man does not hear it as a rule because his consciousness is entirely centered in his material existence. Man becomes so absorbed in his experiences in the external world through the medium of the physical body that space, with all its wonders of light and sound, appears to him blank. This can be easily understood by studying the nature of color. There are many colors that are quite distinct by themselves, yet when mixed with others of still brighter hue, they become altogether eclipsed. Even bright colors, when combined with gold, silver, diamonds, or pearls, serve merely as a background to the dazzling embroidery. So it is with the abstract sound compared with the sounds of the external world. The limited volume of earthly sounds is so concrete that it dims the effect of the sound of the abstract to the sense of hearing. Although in comparison to it, the sounds of the earth are like that of a whistle to a drum. When the abstract sound is audible, all other sounds become indistinct to the mystic. The sound of the abstract is called Anahad in the Veda, meaning unlimited sound. The Sufis name it Samad, which suggests the idea of intoxication. The word intoxication is here used to signify upliftment, the freedom of the soul from its earthly bondage. Those who are able to hear the Sati Samad and meditate on it are relieved from all worries, anxieties, sorrows, fears, and diseases, and the soul is freed from captivity in the senses and in the physical body. The soul of the listener becomes the all-pervading consciousness, and his spirit becomes the battery which keeps the whole universe in motion. Some train themselves to hear the Sati Samad in the solitude, on the seashore, on the river bank, and in the hills and dales. Others attain it while sitting in the caves of the mountains or when wandering constantly through forests and deserts, keeping themselves in the wilderness apart from the haunts of men. Yogis and ascetics blow sing, a horn or shankar, a shell which awakens in them this inner tone. Dervishes play nai or algoza, a double flute, for the same purpose. The bells and gongs in the churches and temples are meant to suggest to the thinker the same sacred sound and thus lead him towards the inner life.